Welcome back to Spotlight Over the City, you guys, and we got us a plus one. Our first plus one today. This is a very important segment. It's a health segment. It's mental health segment. It's a whole bunch of segments all in one. But this gentleman is here to tell us some important things about health and wellness and the whole nine. Mentally, I just physically,
Sound
mentally,
mind and sound
the
body.
whole nine.
Sound mind, healthy body.
He's Spotlight Over the City family.
Yes.
Been here before. He's definitely someone that I would consider a fitness guru. He's definitely that. So without further ado, let's get over for my guy Titus in the building.
Titus Unlimited.
Yeah, man.
Woo!
Hey Titus, you had put a little damper on my spirit when you told me what you told me, man. So it kind of threw me off. So my intro was a little dry, but we appreciate you, brother, for being a part of Spotlight Over the City for sure.
Yes, you are Spotlight royalty at this point. You back here with us. Thank you for being a part of our family. And yeah,
and so I'm gonna ask you to give me some health tips personally because I need my T-shirt to fit more like how your T-shirt fit. When I put my T-shirt on this summer, I gotta get it together.
And I need him to be able to lift me up.
That's another subject, another day. Titus, don't listen to her.
I need him to be able
welcome to the show, brother. On a lighter note, man, how you feeling?
I feel good, man. Every day that I get a chance to inspire people, to give people more information, more knowledge, is another day that I get to follow my purpose. And purpose is the main reason why we're here. Purpose and impact. So yeah, I feel great that I get the opportunity to do that.
Yes, indeed.
So if you don't mind, we're live. You gave us some really shocking news a few seconds ago, actually, right before we came on.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I want you to be the person who say what you said to the public and announce this to Spotlight Over the City, and then we'll go over how important this subject is. But tell them what you just announced to, because this is breaking news. This is definitely breaking news. So
yes,
man. So I'm gonna turn it over to you. You just told me something devastating.
Well, I mean, we've heard over the last couple of hours via Twitter and other places about the passing of Kevin Samuels, and we don't know exactly what the reason is yet, whether it's heart attack or something else. But he was found unresponsive in his hotel room, and it's yet another reminder about us men and people in general paying close attention to our health and addressing our health before it's too late. I've made mention of this many a times, that a lot of times when we ignore our health, everybody always thinks they have time. Everybody wants to make it secondary, or I'll get around to it. And sometimes if you don't get around to it fast enough and that bill comes due, it takes everything up front, and sometimes including your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, like I said.
Did you know him personally?
All rumors, all information seems as if the rumor is true. And if it is, it would be very unfortunate that basically a very young guy, 52 years old, is young, would meet his demise in such a sudden fashion.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. Yeah. Did you guys have a personal relationship at all?
Somewhat, yeah. We communicated a couple of times. He'd asked me a couple of times about his health, and wanting to get it together, and was always a little too busy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to. I have a friend that I got news that had a stroke not long ago, and was found unresponsive. And he recovered, and he's good. But everybody don't have that fate. And so I just want to say we have to really take it seriously. And we're getting older. We have to be more serious about our health. And even if you're young, a lot of young people think they're invincible. But you do have to take care of your health young, because that's when it catches up to you as you get old. So what would be some of the things that you would say to us today that we may be taking for granted about our health, that we should not?
Well, one of the things that, I go back to the story of Harriet Tubman, right? when somebody congratulated Harriet Tubman about how many slaves she had set free. And she wasn't necessarily thrilled about that. She said, I would have freed 5 times more if only they knew they were slaves. We would be able to help a lot more people with their health, especially in our community, if only they were aware of how unhealthy their habits were. If only they were aware of all the people who are telling them information and giving them information that's detrimental to their health. If only they were aware of all the people that they call stars and superstars and role models that are leading them in the wrong direction health-wise. If only they were honest with themselves to be straight up and say, you know what, I do way too much. And someone is not trying to hurt my feelings, they're just trying to tell me the truth. And, you know, that is the biggest struggle, is getting people to understand that the habits that they have been programmed to have are detrimental. The things that we say flippantly, like, oh, you know, I'm getting old, you know, and associating aging with diminishing capabilities, you know, that's not necessarily true. That's not the norm. What is the norm is that you have neglected yourself, and that's why you're declining, not because you're old, not because you're older. Okay,
so
it's due to your care or lack thereof, and your lack of understanding of how to take care of your body. Okay.
So to piggyback off of what you just said, not to cut you off, but I want to make some points so we won't run out of time. When you talk about women in general, from a man's standpoint, women are really touchy about weight and health. Like, it's a tough subject to address a sister and say anything about weight. So men are a little different. We're a little different. We can take it. So how do you, how do you advise women on health without being offensive?
You know, I was raised by a woman that told me just to tell her what it is. The thing is that when you see people elect to take offense to things, that's a choice, you know? And a lot of times if someone, male or female, wants to get upset about how you said it, right? That is just a method to deflect. They don't want to address it anyway, okay? The problem is never how someone says it. The problem is that you didn't want to address it, all right?
Right.
And the reason why they don't want to address it is because 9 times out of 10, they believe they have time. They believe they can get away with it. They believe they can hide behind whatever excuses or reasons they want to give. Mm-hmm. They have enough people telling them opposite, right? And so I stick to the facts. You know, I posted something just the other day about obesity rates in the United States in 1990. Now, we're all old enough where we were adults in 1990. We remember the size of what people used to be in 1990. The obesity rate in 1990 was 15%, maybe a little bit higher than that. Right now, it's 50%.
Wow.
Our DNA, our genetics, our bone structure, our muscle mass, none of that has changed. But what has changed is the average woman, especially the average African-American woman, has increased in body mass, some 30 to 40 pounds, and want to hide behind, oh, you know, we're naturally thicker. Okay, the same woman that was 23, 24, 25 years old in 1990 and weighed $135 or $140 is now trying to convince me that she's cool at 180. And society tells you that it's fat shaming when you call out the facts. It's not. It's just the truth. And you see, the thing is that the numbers reflected. The obesity rate for African American women is 55%. But let's assume you don't want to believe that. Let's assume that that's wrong. We're not big. We're just big bone. Well, then why do we lead in high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, heart attack,
That's
and come last in life expectancy? Why?
And we have to change that narrative, Titus. This is exactly what I want you to speak to. We have to get to a point where our health is just as important as Gucci, Prada, going to the clubs, buying out the bar, All of those things are important. The biggest chain, the biggest diamonds. We really value those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to place just as much value on our life because without the life, you can't get the chains, the diamonds, the bottles, this and that. So I believe in
And
that.
I think, Stan, I think that's number one where we're going wrong, right? When we keep placating and appeasing people to say there's nothing wrong with that. There is something wrong with that. There is something seriously wrong when we as Black people want to say that we are proud Black people, especially people in this hip hop community or whatever that they want a culture that want to say, and there's not a single brand owned by anyone who is of the color of the people who claim they own hip hop. None of the money that's spent in hip hop goes to any brand that actually really supports hip hop. Everything goes out.
Everything.
So there's something seriously wrong with the mindset, right? Once again, back in 1990, we had the Carl Kanais, we had the Fubu's, we had those brands that were for us, by us. If that's what you want to espouse to. But now everything, you listen to a song, you can't even get through the first two verses of the song without them name dropping about 4 brands that ain't got nothing to do with
for free.
people who support you.
For
Yep.
free. For free.
You better
For
say
free.
it.
For free.
Yep.
For absolutely free. And it boils down to programming, but it also boils down to a community that does not even understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
What? I'll give you an example. The other day, I was listening to this young man, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows he's a political activist, Killer Mike.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Okay. And just the name itself, gives a lot of cause to pause because I can understand, your roots and where you come from and not forgetting where you're coming from. But I think part of life is growth and evolution. So no one's saying that you should forget or not acknowledge where you come from. But as you change and as you grow, right, there is such a thing as not hiding from your past, but also acknowledging that your past was not necessarily the best and showing change. And just
grow.
walking around at that late day and age with the name Killer Mike while you're supposedly promoting something positive gives a certain lean of mindset. But let's move to what I'm talking about.
I wish
he
we
was
had more
talking about
time.
the fact that African Americans love soda,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he was referencing Coca-Cola in particular. And Coca-Cola sells more soda to the African American community, but that, for that matter, every community than anyone else. Okay. But what got me is he made a pause and said, but I'm not going to badmouth Coke because they give jobs in our community. And therein lies the problem. Because
It's a trade-off. They doing it. It's a trade-off that's not valued.
it's not a trade-off. Okay. It's not a trade-off is an even trade.
Right. I'm saying it's an unfair
So-
trade-off. Yeah.
Exactly. So they come and they hire a couple thousand people in a couple of neighborhoods, right? But then they sell to billions of people and they buy your silence, they buy your complacency. And not only that, right? They buy your integrity. Because guess what they do with the smartest of the smart and the best of the best? They come around to us and they offer us endorsement contracts to sell their products, to endorse their products. Where in turn, when a African-American kid or any kid sees a popular basketball player or something like that they admire drinking Coca-Cola or Sprite, guess what? It continues the cycle of use. So guess what? They pay, a couple $1 million out in endorsements, in scholarships, to place their name here, place their name there. But in exchange for that, they make a couple of $1 billion.
And flood
every
the
year.
market. Yep. Flooding the market with the
Off of you.
consumption. Yep.
But you see, this is not a new tactic. And that's why I always tell people you have to learn your past, to understand the present, and prepare for the future. If we look back, isn't that what John D. Rockefeller did? Isn't that how he took over the entire medical establishment
Yep.
in the early 1900s?
Yep.
Right? The Carnegie Foundation, I think no one still has given more money, right, than the Carnegie Foundation, because at that point in time, I believe it was $184 million, but I was in the early 1900s, right? Everyone who wants to control people and wants to control the narrative learned that. Isn't that what we see Bill Gates do?
That's right.
Isn't
Now,
that what we see? Every popular corporation that wants to sell toxins to you, that's what they do.
Of course,
they give
because
some money,
they consider you
buy some
cattle.
things, but guess what? We keep sucking it up.
That's right. They consider us cattle, Titus. This is what it is. They consider us
once
cattle.
again, it's not just us now, because I want us to make sure that we understand Coca-Cola is not rich off of black people.
Right.
Okay? Coca-Cola is rich off of ignorance. Okay?
Yeah, but we perpetuate
Coca-Cola
that ignorance
likes
a lot
Coca-Cola.
though in our community. We got to get ready to wrap it, Titus. We got to get you back on the whole show.
I was
Like
gonna
we
say,
need
you need
here.
a whole show,
Yeah,
Titus.
we can't do a segment with Titus. We need to do a
We
whole
need a
show
whole show.
because you're very informative, and you have some great things to say. But we got to get to rapping because the producers in here throwing up their gang signs.
Titus, are
and stuff
you in the DMV area?
I used to be. I actually live in Miami, but the truth is that I would actually travel to the DMV just to do a show.
Yeah, let's
Man,
do
we
that.
gotta
Let's
get a
plan
big.
it.
We're
So
gonna
we
set
can
up a
just do
real
whole
platform,
platform
where we
with
can
you
let
here.
we can really air it out because some lot of things that I know that you have in your heart to speak on that we're gonna run out of time to speak on. That's the only reason I cut you. So please tell them where they can follow you and anything you want to plug right before we wrap it. Plug it.
You can follow me at Titus Unlimited. You can find me on all platforms, even my website. I own a full-service natural supplement company, but I also do health counseling for people. I go live often. You can watch my lives on my YouTube page, Titus Unlimited, as well. Once again, I don't tell people what to think. I just tell people to think.
Okay.
Stop listening to what you're told and take a step back and think about it.
And think.
Does that make sense? Has it worked for you? Has it ever worked for you? And if it's not working for you, who is it working for?
I love it.
And I promise you, the
Love
one
it.
thing that would always make a man fearful is a thinking man. The thinking man. And we have lost our sense of thinking and replaced it with fear. Fear has become the new thought wave. So we have to replace it and get back to a solid consciousness. Let's get up for my main man, Titus, one time. Titus Unlimited in the building.
Yes, health is wealth, y'all.
Health is wealth. Health is wealth.
y'all.
Health is wealth. We love you, bro.
Yes, we
Brilliant
do.
mind.
We're gonna talk,
Brilliant
Titus,
mind.
so we can get you scheduled in person.
Yeah, we gotta have all that mind in the house. We gotta
Yes.
bring it to the building, man. We appreciate you. Salute,
So
Titus.
much, y'all. Give it up one
more
last time for
my
Titus
man,
Unlimited.
Titus Unlimited in the building.